Good evening and hail to the herd. This has been a bit of an oddball stream this evening, so apologies for the TBD on the panel there. We had lots of scrambling at the last minute due to illness and apparently role playing games. You know, can't can't complain about that one, but um, so I do want to thank Amanda for filling in for Bryce, who is ill. And we were really hoping to get the writers for Gumshoe here. And unfortunately, they have a mass group role playing session this evening. So they were unable to make it. And I did not find out until kind of last minute. So, um, but we do have Cam Banks, who is from the future at the moment.
Correct.
I'm sorry. It's what time on Tuesday there?
It is 12 o'clock noon on Tuesday.
Oh, interesting. And everyone else I've ever had from your area of the world was like drinking coffee, and so I always made the assumption that it must be, early morning ish. But no, apparently they're just late risers.
Yeah.
Okay. So introductions. Cam, if you want to start, just tell us a little bit about yourself. When you got into gaming, how you got into gaming, and then how you got into game design.
Yeah, thanks. I am Cam Banks. I'm from New Zealand. I spent 22 years, however, in the United States of America. It's where I got married and started raising our family. And then I abandoned the US in 2018 at the end of the year to come to New Zealand to be close to my family. So I've been here since then, and a lot of my game design and tabletop sort of experience started off in the US, and so a lot of that sort of experience was there, and I brought it all home to me now, minus all of the money and employment, which is the best part about it. No, I'm doing okay. I work on a contract basis. I have a company of my own now called Rusty Sellsword Design, which someone has clearly helped me share that. Oh, that's my Patreon. That's cool. But Rusty Sellsword is my shingle, which I have put up on outside of my place to do contract design work and development work and other kinds of stuff that's related to publishing tabletop games. Prior to that, and before all of that, I was creative director at a number of companies. I worked with Margaret Weiss, who is famous for Dragonlance and other things that she's made. I worked for her to do projects such as the Firefly RPG and Marvel Heroic Role Playing and Smallville and Leverage. And Leverage is the reason I think that I'm here tonight. One of the reasons. Since then, the game system I've used for that Cortex system has been used in other games, and yeah, that's pretty much me. So that's my general gist. I love making things, love publishing things. I have many hats that I've worn over the years, and for right now, it is a contractor hat. It's the invisible one I'm wearing now.
So we always have to ask how long have you been role playing?
Well, I am 55 now, so 45 years.
You are one of a very small handful of people to have me beat on that front. It's become kind of an ongoing joke about the fact that I am very frequently the oldest person on any of my panels.
Yeah, I used to be the youngest person on all these sorts of things, and then everyone got young, and I didn't. Yeah, I'm just progressing along. I'm happy in my time of life at this point. I'm okay with that. Gen X, as you know, very chill people right now because all the fun stuff is happening to the young people.
The controversial question, since you were involved with the Firefly role playing game,
Hmm?
what do you think about the rumors that they're going to start a?
Oh, I don't like the show. So I don't care.
That might be the best answer I've got.
That is my response. I like some of the actors. I think, and the one that I really like is dead. On the show, So I think that good for everybody who wants to see their characters and people who enjoy that stuff. I always think it's great. Fandom gets to have reunions and sort of revivals from time to time. It's fantastic. It's not for me, but I'm happy that other people are looking forward to it and excited by it.
I have not seen Eraserhead have that much of a reaction since someone told them they liked pineapple on pizza.
I also like pineapple on pizza, so that is great. I'm right up there.
Ugh, careful. He's the one in charge of putting all your links up. All right, Amanda.
Hello, I'm Amanda Call. I am actually a comic artist by trade, but I also work as a freelance illustrator for RPGs for a ton of different RPG companies. I have also worked as a writer and developer on a bunch of different RPG products throughout the years. That all started because back in college, my one thing that I did as like a hobby was I joined the gaming club and started joining different RPGs, made a bunch of friends there. And as it turns out, I went to art school, so we all had a lot of different creative careers that we went off into, but a lot of the folks that were in the gaming club actually ended up going on to also doing some freelancing in a lot of other game companies throughout the years. So it was kind of one of those, I made all these connections at that time when we were all just hanging out having fun, and then later on when we're all looking for work, it was like, oh hey, so I'm working at this company writing, do you want an art gig? Or, oh, I'm working on this project, we need another writer, I know you can write too. And it all kind of just branched out from there. So that's how I ended up getting roped into all of this. And so I've worked for a ton of different companies. The one that I'm most likely got brought in on this would have been my connection with Fearlight Games, which unfortunately these days is kind of defunct. It hasn't really published anything in a long time. But we published Baker Street back in the day. And that one was a mystery solving RPG where you get to play as some of the Baker Street irregulars filling in for Sherlock Holmes and solving mysteries.
So, how long have you been gaming?
So I didn't actually get to officially start. Like I dabbled in high school, but never got any further than like, let's make a character and not even get through one session. So I don't count that. But I would say I really started when I was in college. So that would be 22 years now.
How do I put this gently? Either I am much older than I think I am, or you have aged very well because
Yeah, no one ever thinks
I would not have I would not
no,
have done that math.
no one ever thinks I'm actually 40, but I am.
Um,
Sunscreen, my friends. It's your
Mm-hmm.
best friend.
all right, well, let's say hello to the chat. As always, well, almost always, Legatus was here first, probably 2 days ago. Legatus is one of our mods, and I am quite convinced that Legatus lives inside the internet because he's everywhere always. Simon is here. Welcome, Simon. I hope you're doing well. I miss you guys over now that I've shut down Discord. Hanayama-san is here. Hanayama-san will announce that he is here, and he will announce that he was here when he leaves. And other than that, and unless you say something about Japanese anime, he will not comment the entire time.
Good to know.
Eraser is our other mod. He is the guy with the links. He very frequently puts links up before I even know that I need them. We have Full Metal Dragon. Greetings. I feel like I would recognize the brilliant purple icon had you been here before, so I think you must either be new or at least somewhat new. So welcome to the herd. We have Matt Funcool. Matt is Very cool. Matt hangs out with me on my video game streams quite frequently. Full Metal Dragon is picking fights with a racer already. All right. Now, because of the time zone issue, I assume that there will be people trickling in more gradually than usually happens because of the whole, like, I don't even know what time Jack is going to get done tonight.
Because we're
I
doing
managed to be
daylight
on 2
daylight
live
savings
streams
here.
previously. All right, so you're under another name then. Got it. This is the problem with the internet. Everyone has like 6 different names, and I have a hard enough time with like, one. Well, welcome anyway. First time or 100th time. We're happy to have you. So we are here to talk about mystery games. And it's been I've been talking about this a little bit on Twitter. Yes, Simon says I am Simon everywhere. Yes, which is why I always know who you are, and it is so easy to greet you as opposed to almost everyone else. So I have been having this conversation. It started because Grim Jim, for those of you who know him, put up a video mentioning about the fact that there are very few heist role-playing games and very few mystery-solving role-playing games. And I got thinking about it, and I was like, mysteries are the most popular book genre. They're the most popular podcast genre. Mystery dinner theaters are basically just live-action role-playing under a different name. How is it that we don't have more mystery and more heist games? This seems very strange. I mean, yes, a lot of games have some of that incorporated. I mean, D&D has rogues because occasionally you need to steal stuff. But you have Leverage, which is a heist game. You have Baker Street, which is a mystery game. You have Gumshoe, which is mostly a mystery game. What's the cozy little old ladies having tea and solving mysteries game?
Oh, Brindlewood Bay.
Yeah. I don't really consider that a mystery game, but I guess technically most people categorize it as such. Because there isn't a mystery ahead of time really to be solved. It's here's the crime, and then you just make up who did it. So really, it's like a popularity contest disguised as a mystery game. Whoever you dislike the most is who you frame for it. I'm trying to think. I'm missing one.
More recently, Free League Publishing put out the Blade Runner RPG, which is also a mystery solving game.
Is it?
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. I don't think I would think of that, just hearing Blade Runner. But that actually was kind of one of my points is there are a lot of people out there who were saying, players don't want mystery games. And I found that really strange because, if you told someone you were going to run a Doctor Who game or a Batman game, they'd be all over that.
Right.
So what do you think? Let's start with what do you think it is about hearing mystery game that just automatically makes people go, nah?
I think for a lot of people, they don't really know if they're going to be able to figure the mystery out, or if that's the part that's the core aspect of the game, then that's going to be challenging for them. Whereas it's much, much easier to pretend to swing a sword or cast a spell or, punch a cultist than figuring out whatever the heck clues and things there are. I think the reason why it's been so difficult for such a long time for anyone to really nail it, universally at least, because we can all agree we've nailed combat violence games pretty easily, but the mystery side of things is hard because, as you said, sometimes it doesn't seem as if it's what they really want. They want the mystery kind of to happen. But if you say, I'm going to do a game that's just mystery, then they're like, oh, I'm not sure if that's going to work,
I would
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would posit that I think actually a lot of people enjoy playing mystery games. Every time that we ran Baker Street at conventions, which I was part of the Fearlight like promotional crew as well, and we ran dozens upon dozens of games at big conventions, and almost every game would be sold out, and we would have recurring players year to year where people would come and they would play a couple of our games and they would come back and sign up for every new case that they hadn't seen before. And at my home convention every year, if I don't bring Baker Street, people are like, how come you're not running Baker Street this year? So I think that once people actually give it a shot, a lot of them do really, really actually enjoy them because they can be a really rewarding RPG experience because you have that it's actually really satisfying to be able to work your way through a mystery and come to a conclusion. And if the game supports it mechanically, it's not as it's not quite as intimidating as it needs to be, but that's the other side of it that I think, having come from a developer side of having worked on mystery games, the real reason you don't see more of them is because they are a bear to write and design mechanically and to make functional. So we always had a hard time when we were working on Baker Street. Every time it was like, okay, we got to write more mysteries. Oh no, we got to write more mysteries.
Full Metal Dragon says Blades in the Dark. That was what I was trying to think
Okay,
of.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And yes, Shadowrun is kind of a heist game, but it is secondarily a heist game. It is primarily a sci-fi game.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Um,
that I think is the big thing, is that they're very hard to develop. There are not very many of them on the market because they are just really, really difficult to pull off from the development side.
I think in terms of the marketing of the game, you have a sort of an in with Baker Street because you can say this is a Sherlock Holmes game.
Oh, for sure.
And with
And
Brindlewood Bay, you can say this is kind of like an old ladies sort of, who write crime novels solving stuff, and then, and there's also dark cults. You can spin a lot of that surrounding setting, and then the mystery is not the actual, that's not the core. You know what I mean? I think if you took Baker Street's mechanics and just said, I'm going to run a mystery game, does anyone want to do it? They would want more information. Like,
oh, for sure, yeah.
what do you mean by that, right?
I think you are not wrong. And originally, when Bryce Whitaker, the game designer who came up with Baker Street, when he originally did it, he was just making a mystery game. And then his wife was actually like, oh, when's Sherlock going to show up? And he's like, wait, nope, that's actually a way better plan.
Mhm.
well, like I was saying, if somebody said, I'm going to run a Batman game or a Doctor Who game or a Leverage game or a Baker Street game, people that like those IPs would be all over it. But they just hear mystery and go, eh. Except that, Gumshoe seems to do pretty well, and well, I don't know, Brindlewood Bay gets compared to, like Murder She Wrote a lot, so I guess there's kind of some IP involved there as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
it's that whole idea of trying to do it without the IP, right? You're saying it's like this, and
Yeah.
then people will say, "Okay, I get that. I get the idea."
well, but to be fair, I've had a lot of indie games on here, and what most of them start out by saying is describing their game as to how it is or is not like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
Mhm.
So there is a tendency to say, you try a new food and somebody says, what's it taste like? Trying to compare to things that we already know,
Mhm.
I think is kind of a natural thing. What I found interesting, though, is that most of the people who answered the question about why don't we have more mystery games were game masters saying players won't like it.
Hmm.
And I was like, is it the players won't like it, or is it that you don't want to run it?
Mhm.
Yes.
And
the answer is yes.
well, what I got was I got almost no players saying I wouldn't want to play a mystery game. What I got was a whole lot of game masters saying players are too dumb for mystery games.
Oh.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And I was like, they're like, I gave them a puzzle once that, a 5-year-old could solve and they couldn't figure it out. And to me, that's maybe not the players.
I think that's where you run into issues of just a mismatch between what the players are expecting and what you're offering them, and also what you're offering them for tools. So if you're in a game like D&D where the tools that your players have, what they expect their characters to be capable of, are casting fireballs and hitting things with swords, and then you're
Yeah.
like, okay, now do this puzzle. It's like, well, that's not what my character is built to do. My player character is built to throw fireballs and hit things with swords.
Mhm.
I don't understand, like, puzzles is not part of the deal here. And
Yeah.
so that's just not where their head is at when they're doing that. Whereas if you have a game that is mechanically supporting mysteries, and then also you go into it with, hey, your characters, part of what they are doing is solving mysteries. And like a lot of times games like Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu will do like mysteries and that sort of thing. And a lot of times you're playing just like average people. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm going to draw on my character's knowledge base and I'm going to try to figure things out because I'm not falling back on the fact that my job is hit things with sword or cast fireball. And I think that's a big part of it, is just that if you're approaching a game from the more traditional D&D type of approach and then you throw in a mystery element, that's not where your players' heads are at. That's not what they're expecting to do with the tools that they have.
I definitely would agree that people who play only fantasy, or I would actually go so far as to say only like 5th edition, because the older editions, traps that were going to kill you if you didn't figure out a way out of them fast enough were pretty common, and
That's
that's
true.
really not that different. Yes, if you had a bunch of murder hobos, they were all just going to die, then as now. But and it may be the fact that I tend to run a lot of horror games,
Mm.
and so the unknown is kind of part of the game, and figuring things out is part of the game. So it may
Mhm.
simply be that I'm biased as to the players I have.
Yeah.
I run a bunch of different games, and I've been very lucky and had some really great players in all of them. But I think even in fantasy, so the only 5e supplement I have ever, I am not a 5e fan. But there is a company out of, I'm going to forget which country, somewhere in Europe. The people I had on the show were from like 2 or 3 different countries, and they were not in the country that the company was out of. So I don't remember where the company's out of. But they created a historical 5e compatible adventure that takes place in Renaissance Italy. And it starts off as a murder mystery.
Oh, fun.
And then it kind of goes from there and then delves into like, bigger and badder, fanciful kinds of things. But you bring the party together with a murder mystery.
Mhm.
And it's an absolutely wonderful supplement. And if you just sort of dropped players into the main chunk of the adventure where they're, basically in Dante's Inferno, I don't think you would get the connection between players that you do when you start with it's like Spider-Man. Everyone likes Spider-Man because he's this nice, small, local hero. And he's more relatable than when you get into the giant universal, multi-universe world-ending disasters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that mysteries are wonderful for, is bringing groups together. Like, you have to cooperate if you're solving a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man now is not the same. Okay, I'm talking about the Spider-Man people like. And I would still say, I mean, the cartoon Spider-Man there, people really enjoyed. And again, that was No Way Home was the live action one. I'm terrible with names tonight.
Spider-Verse was the animated one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Um, I also wonder if we're reaching out to the wrong audience. Um, we talk a lot about the fact that if you are trying to sell your role playing game to people who are nothing but fantasy role players, it's honestly it's a fairly small market.
Mm.
If on the other hand you want a larger market, go for people who've never played a role playing game before. They
Yeah.
make up a much bigger population. And you know that there are people out there who love murder mysteries and podcasts, and I'd never ever get my cousin to play a role playing game, but if I told her, "Hey, you want to play a board game that's a murder mystery," she'd be all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to go to a mystery theater dinner?
I think that kind of speaks to also the medium that we're talking about, right? Because an RPG has its own specific qualities and pros and cons when it comes to telling a mystery story, whereas a pre-made game like those how to host a murder boxes and anything else that comes pre-packaged, as Amanda was saying, writing that stuff is extremely difficult. But if you do it and you try it out and test it with your audience, then you publish it and it's solid, especially if there are multiple potential outcomes, right? That's always good. But those sorts of products, because they kind of are fixed and baked in, lack any of the sort of requirements that an RPG has, which is coming into a character and being able to make any choice you want and having certain skills and stats and things. I think sometimes those things get incorporated into those sorts of things. Like you'll have a sheet that says you are, Lord Falsworth, and he is very mad at various dukes and duchesses in this area. And so you kind of have your character and you can role play that. But it isn't what I think that the people you're talking about who used to playing D&D or other games would consider the same thing as role playing, right? It's more like a story game or a live play experience. And I think that sometimes what we're finding is that once you try to bring all that into RPGs, you have to find a solve for some of the problems that introduces as a medium. Either tons of prep, or, and I think you said this before with Brindlewood Bay, which I think you said it's kind of a cheat, but honestly, it's a common solve for this, which is I don't know as the GM who the murderer is.
Yep.
I'm going to listen to you guys come up with cool ideas and theories and pick one of them, and that's going to be the one I go with, right?
Yep.
And even though that sounds like I'm making it up, yeah, welcome to RPGs. I do this all the time with everything else, right? I've had several occasions when someone said, "I think the big bad in this adventure is going to be this, the Baron." I'm like, "No, he's an NPC with like 2 stats. Okay, it's the Baron now. It sounds like a cool story, and it was better than my one, which was the washerwoman person over here." So I think sometimes that ability to course correct as a GM is fun because you can do that, but you can't then also have your pre-baked set of things that all fall apart if the players never get it or don't understand the clues.
My usual tendency, whether it's a mystery or anything else, is I know where the game is going to start and I know where the game is going to end, and they get to fill in everything in between. But I would know who committed the crime, and because I need a stat block for them.
Right.
But yeah, the end point okay. The end point I always have figured out, except when the players go so off the rails that yeah, when you have the one player who decides that they're going to like sell their services to the fae that they ran into, that was supposed to be a 10-minute, one-off thing, and instead one player sells the entire party's services to the fae.
That one player where it's just like, what are you doing? Where are we going? What is this?
The really funny thing is that he's usually my level-headed, thinky player. But yes, so yeah, large chunks of that got rewritten. But that doesn't change the ending. It just means that the ending is now going to be much further away than I had originally thought.
Here's a question for you. I wonder, what do you need the stat block for?
I mean, I was mainly just using it as a term I figured people would know, but it kind of depends on the stat block is not really the right word.
Hmm.
My end big bad always has a personality.
Right.
So it's less about the numbers than more about I want their actions to make sense. So if, for instance, they're pulling strings in the background, I need to know what their motivation is. I need to know what they're like so I know how those strings would be pulled. Um, as opposed to just saying, oh yeah, everything that happens because the big bad just decided to do it, whether it made sense or not. I like things logical.
Yeah.
Motivation is also a really good thing to have written down, so you can kind of justify all the weird nonsense that happened for the previous 2 hours, right? Um, I think I would be most upset if I was playing a mystery game if I, at the end, the mystery's sort of secret solution, the actual reveal, didn't make any sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, my wife is very much a fan of romances, and she likes to read the mystery romances as well, the ones that are paranormal stuff, whatever. And quite a lot of the time, there are some writers who cheat, and they just introduce here's we've revealed what's going on, and you're like, there's no way I could have guessed that from what you wrote, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the concern sometimes is if the players haven't gone to the places they need to go, or discovered all the clues, or understood any of them because whatever. Um, and then you go, and it was the Baron, aha! And then you say, here's the Baron, we can now do, and then you're like, what do you mean it was him? Where was he
Yeah.
this whole time? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So some of some of what you talked about earlier, as far as like the mystery dinners and having things very codified and more like board gamey. Some of that is just to kind of explain like some of what we did with Baker Street and how it's used, which this is only kind of sort of a plug because there's only like one place you can buy it anymore. It's functionally out of print, so whatever. But just because it's interesting as far as this conversation goes. But we had to incorporate some of that where like in order to make sure that people found and understood clues, we had that covered mechanically
Hmm.
where you would have specific scenes where you would roll on stats as a group to try to discover how many clues you dug up. And they were on these cool little cards. And so
Oh,
these,
nice.
yeah, so you'd get these little cards. These you could, print out, or if you got like the PDF, or we made little like note cards. You could write them on if you wanted to as well. And each one would have like what the clue is, but then also three different leads. And so that's your different interpretations of what the clue could mean. And
Hmm.
figuring out which of those leads was the correct interpretation was a separate skill roll as well. And so this was something where you had to use a combination of like what is on your character sheet, but also because the skill roll would tell you how many of the leads you could rule out. And you as a group would then have to decide, okay, well, if we can only rule out two leads, like which ones sound the most likely? And that's where you get to actually think and try to solve the mystery together as a group. But if you're totally on the wrong track, the mechanics help back you up there.
Hmm.
And another thing that we had to do a lot of times with like the writing of the mysteries was to build in a lot of fail safes where if, for example, your players didn't follow up with a particular person that they should have to find some piece of information, then you had to build into the adventure a failsafe of like, if they don't talk to this person, then if they talk to this person instead, they can find some of the same information. Or we would have full on cheats of like, they either get into this gentleman's club to interview these guys, or if they fail to convince the doorman to let them into the gentleman's club to talk to these guys, the two guys happen to be walking down the street and they run into them outside of the gentleman's club because you need to
Yeah.
talk to them to move the story forward.
I mean, I like the Gumshoe, I believe, has a rule in it that basically says if you are trying to like get a certain clue, all you have to do is think to say, I'm going to search the room.
Yeah.
And then there's
Mhm.
no roll for it. Like, as
Yeah.
long as you've searched the room, you get what the information. The roll is to what extent do you learn things?
Mhm. Mhm.
So you'll find the clue no matter what. But if you roll really well, you might find some additional information.
Yeah, Gumshoe is amazing in a way, and I guess I can speak for the people who aren't here to talk about it, because the initial call was every time we try and play mystery stories when we have pre-prepared sort of clues and things, there's a bottleneck if the players don't roll their perception skill properly, or they miss out on going into a room where the clue was. The goal of that game is you will find the clue. The clues are going to be there. In fact, I think they've got two kinds of skill groups. One is the kind of bunch of little action kind of things like jumping and leaping and fighting and stuff, scrapping. That's your standard kind of like roll a d6 and see if you do it. The other stuff has dots or little points on them, and you spend them to get more and more effective clues that you find, and you will find a clue, but whether it's a really, really helpful one or just fills in a few gaps for you depends on how many points you spend onto it. And the numbers of different kinds of skills they've got are just all over the place. Like there's just so many like very narrow kinds of lore that you as a player might say, well, I've got biochemistry with 5 dots. Is there anything here biochemical I can look at? And the GM's like, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe. But a lot of the time the adventure, the scenario will say, here's all the different kinds of skills that will find this in this room, right? And so you will generally do it. I like that approach because it's kind of like, it isn't about whether you can find a clue. It's, as players using your brains, what are you going to do with this information once you have it? Where are you going to go next? And how will you connect it, right? And I think some similar to the Baker Street things, like, well, now we've given you these leads and you've figured this out. What do you now what, right? And I think that's good because most players need prodding to get that in that direction. So,
did either of you or did anyone in the chat watch Professor DM's video today?
No.
So by sheer coincidence, he did a like a descriptive playthrough of a game he ran that was a mystery.
Oh, cool.
And I saw that and I was like, huh. If I'd known he was going to drop that today, I probably would have invited him. But it's a fantasy game. I think he probably, pitched it to his players as a fantasy game. And there's a lot of the fantasy stuff in it. But it also was a murder mystery. And he said that, he makes certain to basically repeat every clue or hint that players need like three times from 3 different places.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that if they read it wrong the first time or they see it wrong the first time. Matt Funcool says, fantasy murder party in a tavern.
That'd be fun.
But yeah, it's interesting because I wonder 2 things. One, I wonder if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Players aren't going to want murder mysteries, so we don't make murder mysteries because they're really hard. We don't run murder mysteries because they're really hard. Therefore, players think, well, murder mysteries don't really belong in role-playing. And 2, I wonder what would happen if you took a murder mystery game and just marketed it to an entirely different group. Don't market it to role players, market it to wine moms who like true crime podcasts.
Right. And I think that's some of the success that like the murder mystery box, box games have, is that while they are kind of like training wheels LARPs,
yeah,
they're marketed to much more like mainstream kind of folks, not necessarily hardcore gamers, and so they sell tons of them.
Yeah, and you have to put them in front of these people too. In a way, you can't just say, "I've written a game that's going to be super popular for wine drinking moms who love murder mystery stories. I just won't put it anywhere that they can see it, and therefore I will complain that no one ever buys it." So you can get a box of the How to Host a Murder stuff at toy stores and bookstores and things. They've got them there, and so while you're in the area looking for your latest murder mystery novel, which you have to devour and share with your friends, oh look, this is a cool thing. I'll do this for like an evening, and we'll take my friends out. And the real push is to try and get them together and have a game, right? I mean, that's the hard part. We
Mhm.
have that problem even with normal games. And so, um, once you get your audience and once you've made it possible to do it, I think a, a boxed RPG product would be really successful if it was put in front of people who would be your audience. That's the really hard thing to do that because you have to first get into those channels and then you have to find out who will buy this even from me. It's just hard.
I also think that, if you write, um, like if you write Leverage, let's say,
Hmm.
um, if you put it in a game store with the role playing books, you're going to miss everyone that doesn't look at the role playing book, that doesn't look at role playing books. If, on the other hand, you go to a movie store and you stick it next to the Leverage DVDs,
Hmm.
um, you're going to catch all of the people that are fans of the show. Whereas normally you'd have to catch people who are fans of the show and role players.
Yeah.
Um, though I will say, I know it is currently out of print, but I looked it up on eBay and wow, apparently people who like that game really like that game. The cheapest copy I could find was $130.
Nice.
I've got like 3 of these, so I'll take bids. I mean, I was just talking today about it would be really cool if we could bring it back, but it's been I checked. This was 2010, so what, 16 years ago?
It's interesting though, because the television series really got kind of a resurgence in popularity when they started threatening to remake it.
Huh.
And nobody wanted it remade, so they went back and they started watching it's like the 4400 was kind of the same thing. When they started talking about remaking the show, everyone complained and went back and started watching the old one instead.
Well,
Nobody
they did
watched
remake it.
nobody
Leverage
what
Redemption is an ongoing show.
say again?
Leverage Redemption is an ongoing series now.
Oh, is it? I thought it had come and gone.
Nope.
4400 lasted less than a season, then got canceled. So,
Yeah, that's true.
um, Leverage Redemption still included the same characters and stuff, right?
It is most of the same cast. Timothy Hutton is not in it anymore, and they killed off his character. So that's a fun way to deal with uh, uh, other stuff that was going on around the time with him. But also, some of the characters sort of took a step back, and they brought in a couple of new faces to try and be, a younger generation version of certain, parts of the cast. But it's been very, very popular. I think it's kind of like the kind of shot in the arm that the property needed to come back again. But there were 5 seasons of the original show, right? I mean, it
Hmm.
did really well. That's these days, if you can get 2 seasons, you're really lucky.
Hmm.
If you can get
Yeah, it got
half,
it,
you know,
it got canceled last December. That's why I didn't realize it
uh,
had lasted 3 seasons. That was why I was.
yeah, it's a
But yeah,
cutthroat world out there in broadcast TV.
I think that people are far more forgiving of shows that return with the same cast and the same creators and the same everything than they are the hey, we're going to take this name and then slap a whole like bunch of new people
Yeah.
Hmm.
that don't actually have anything to do with the original show. Um, so mysteries, the since we're talking about Leverage, um, mysteries I kind of see. If people believe that no one's going to play them and they're hard to run and they're hard to develop, and players don't tend to think of them in the repertoire of games. But what about Heist?
Hmm.
I mean, Blades in the Dark does it quite well. Um, I am not a fan of the whole flashback thing, but that's because my brain is entirely. I'm not very flexible.
That was our
This is why
secret killer app in Leverage was flashbacks, and now you're telling me you can't. It's sad. It's all right. That's fine.
I'm I'm a good editor because I am very good at tedious in order. This is the rules. This is how this things works. Um,
Hmm.
I I in the couple of times I have played Blades in the Dark, I enjoyed it. But I never did the flashbacks because it never occurred to me to do the flashbacks because time works in one direction in my brain and that's it.
Mhm.
But I was a good support for other people who did the flashbacks. Yeah,
So
boundaries.
with
Not flexible, say it ain't so.
with leverage, I mean, when I was working on that, our team, I was doing that at the same time as Smallville. I had two teams that were kind of siloed off from each other, and I was the one person as the lead designer of both games, going back and forth and sort of working with them. And we would borrow occasionally from each other and say, okay, well, this is the thing that the Smallville team came up with. It's a cool idea for a rule, but we don't really have a place for it, so we're going to put it into leverage and vice versa. But it occurred to me while doing a lot of the work for concept and stuff that a lot of D&D and other fantasy games are just heist games, masquerading as fantasy. A lot of them are westerns masquerading as fantasy. Fantasy is like a paint over of a lot of genres that a lot of things actually already have, and I think that's partly why it is so successful, because it's like, how can I put my favorite genre thing into an RPG without having to deal with all the whatever modern day stuff or real things? Oh, it's just this. And so, um, like Dragonlance, for example, I'm a huge fan of that, and worked on that for third edition D&D and everything. But that is just a western. That is what that is. It's got elements of the Vietnam War in there as well and things, but it's all that stuff recolored and sort of reskinned for fantasy, right? And the same is true, I think, with heists. A bunch of people with different skills get together and go into a place and to try and get treasure or loot or something or get something out. That's a heist, right? Um, they even did the Dragon Heist adventure for 5e for Waterdeep, and I'm like, There's nothing different, but nothing special here. This is the same thing you're always doing. You just call it a heist, right? And it wasn't even a heist. It turns out not to have been one. But like, I think Shadowrun has been brought up before. That is exactly a heist game. That is a game all about getting yourself together. You've got a job. You have to go do the job. Bring back the doodad from the terminal, or recover the person who's missing, or anything like that. There's always some mark that you have to try and get information from, and they've got agents. There's some sort of criminal mastermind somewhere, or organization, or a corporation, and you yourselves are plucky and agile group of people who can do stuff with different skill sets, and that's exactly what heists are always about. And so Leverage was funny because once that game came out, people were reskinning it for Shadowrun and for fantasy and for. I'm like, you just proved my point, right? That's exactly what this is. So yeah, I think that's my secret to it. I think many games are heists already, and we just don't call them that.
I mean, I would say that I agree that there are some heist characteristics, but if you're going into a dungeon to get loot, there's not the same trickery. There's not the same. It's basically, I mean, yes, you have to get through the traps, and there's a certain amount of survival skill, but there's not the same like layers of. There are no con men in a dungeon.
There's bards.
Right.
And many rogues do the whole face thing as well. In fact, if you've ever had a guard that's in a dungeon or somewhere, and the player says, "I'm gonna try and fool him, convince him, deceive him, do something else with him, seduce him, whatever," there's your face character, right?
Yes. I mean, I always thought the bard seducing everyone was a cheap shot.
But I think that if people only go into dungeons and kill things and get their stuff, then yes, correct. That's not actually a heist. That's just a staged mission into dangerous areas to recover things. But I think there's a tendency also, whenever you're trying to introduce any kind of story or other sort of like plot-based elements in it, with characters who have motivations or villains who have some sort of reason to do something, as opposed to being dragons sit on treasure, breathe fire. I think you'll start pulling in all those things that make the heists come alive in other genres too, right? just my thought, and I think definitely there's a lot of exceptions to that. But
Yeah. I yeah, like I said, I think there are definitely mystery aspects. There are I can talk, really, I can. There are heist aspects to pretty much every genre, or
mhm.
every role playing game. I guess it's more so. My history before I you know had medical issues and just started editing full time was that I was in the mental health field, and so like figuring out why and how people do the things they do is kind of my endless source of fascination.
Mhm.
Um, and the why, because when I put up the original Twitter post about hey Rio, when I put up the original Twitter post about hey, I wonder why we don't have more mystery or heist type games. People got very defensive. Like there were
Mm.
some people that really, it wasn't just like not really my thing. Um, like people took it as a real challenge.
Mm.
Um, and I found that interesting that not only are there not these types of games, but there seems to be at least a certain audience that is actively opposed to there ever being.
Wow, interesting.
Like they were like, no one's ever gonna play this. Players are too dumb. No one's ever gonna
Hmm.
solve this. Like, no. I'm like,
Do you
okay,
do you
so
guys need help? Do you not like running games? Are you being held against your will to GM? What is going on? Blink twice if you need help.
Yeah,
Like what?
for sure.
You don't seem happy doing this.
Please solve the mystery of my entrapment. I need to know how to go.
um but like I said, it was almost all game masters talking about why players wouldn't or couldn't do these. And
Hmm.
the ones that were getting really defensive, there were a couple players that were just like, yeah, that's not really my thing. Um but I found it so fascinating. Like I was gonna give their players ideas.
Oh yeah.
Don't
Like,
do that.
don't tell them these games exist. They'll want to play them, and then I'll be stuck.
Pigeons 11. I'm not familiar,
He's
Christopher.
he's he's
Or
making
is
a joke.
he just being silly? Okay.
Yeah,
There are enough obscure
It's Ocean's 11 for birds.
Yep.
Okay, there's enough obscure games out there. I wouldn't be surprised if that had been produced by somebody and I just hadn't heard of it. So,
I
Yeah. I mean,
mean,
there's
they're
Honey Heist,
remaking
right?
they're
right?
remaking Tunes, so next thing you know, there'll be a supplement that's you know, Ocean's 11 Tune is Pigeons 11.
Yeah. There was a very very brief, like almost like a one page game. I think it is. I forget
Yep.
the
Less
design.
less than one page from now I'm blanking on his name, although I do
Yeah.
know it.
I don't know. He's exceptionally good at making very very short games,
Yes.
RPGs. But Honey Heist, and it was interesting enough for the Critical Role people to grab that and run a session of it
Mhm.
for their millions and millions of followers, which is the kind of elevating into the stratosphere that many people would love to have. And if you're like, hang on a second, I just made this like on a whim one weekend, and I wanted to have like bears stealing honey, and it was a
Yeah.
whim.
Grant Howitt is the designer's name.
That's him. Yeah, right.
I couldn't pull it out of my brain. I had to Google it because it was not coming out of my brain. Uh,
Oh.
but yes, that yeah, it's literally like two stats. It's criminal and bear, and you just alternate between them, and it's an incredibly fun game.
Yeah, yeah, it's fantastic.
As your GM says, I ran a Star Wars one-shot mystery where players were criminals who each wanted to kill the head of their organization.
Oh, that's cool.
Sounds
That's fun.
sounds a bit Andor-y, which is interesting.
Yeah.
GM, I'm curious as to how it went. Oh, we have more to it. Each
Mhm.
player wrote a plot related to the assassination. I randomly selected one at the start of the second act.
Oh,
Cool.
that's
That's an
fun.
interesting way to go about it. I like that better than I do just the players pick whoever it is and then the game ends. Um, that's I mean, I still prefer to come up with my own endings, but that is better than it's whoever the least popular person is.
It seems
Players
to me,
can spend time.
if you write up a situation in a way that you know here's the status quo, there are these um, foul people in charge of various organizations. What does your character want to do? That might be you've done your prep in terms of setting up the stage, and all you're really asking them is, well, what are you doing with this information, right? Which is fun. So
Eraser said, "Do you think people just have a screw it? I'd rather play Clue."
yeah,
I wonder if that's it. Like that is kind of the mystery game people tend to think of, and I wonder if people are just like, "Oh, I feel like doing a mystery game. Let's go play Clue."
Except that Clue's not even really like a real mystery game. You're just checking off little boxes. Like it's not
yeah.
the same.
No, it is. It's
Yeah,
deduction, right? You are deducing things, but if you have to kind of take a leap sometimes because before you have
That
all
is
your
true.
clues solved, you got to guess. And I think it's not that informative a guess sometimes. I always just say
Right.
Professor Plum because it's always him. I don't know why
It's just
we
how it works
bother
out.
playing, but
unless Tim Curry is involved, then
yeah,
it's always Tim Curry.
yeah. Or there's three endings.
Goosifer, if you are still listening, your favorite goat could use a cup of tea. Um, Normally I'd text him, but I'm not sure my phone is actually alive. So, and he so rarely is like not busy during my streams. So he almost always watches the replay.
I had another
Um,
thought about this whole reskinning and sort of hiding the genres within other genres thing. If that's of any interest. I worked for a while at Atlas Games, who are the publishers of Ars Magica, right? Which is famously a game about playing wizards in the 13th century, and also about where all the wizards essentially you pick one player plays their wizard and everyone else plays their companions and grogs and other characters. When I was working on that game, mostly doing layout and art direction for it when I was working there, all these adventures and scenarios would come in. We'd bundle them up into anthologies, and we do setting books and other things. Every single adventure, I think, was a mystery. There was almost no adventure in any of the Ars Magica books that wasn't a mystery story of some kind. You were supposed to go find clues, figure out what was going on. It could have been it could be fairies, it could have been, something infernal, but it could be just normal people. And I said, this would be a great Gumshoe game if we could get Gumshoe and mix it with Ars Magica. So for a while, I was developing what I called Magic Shoe, which was like Ars Magica setting with Gumshoe rules. And then I left and came to New Zealand and didn't work anymore. So that's the thing is, sometimes looking at adventures, people are writing adventures for this game, and in their mind, I guess they're thinking, what could I possibly do when people have magic that could just do anything?
Hmm.
And how is that interesting? Well, pose them some or otherwise unsolvable mystery and then see what they do with their magical powers to figure it out, right?
Yep.
that's interesting. Can I ask when you worked there?
Yeah. From 2012 to 2018, I think.
Okay. So later than Tom Kane did then. The reason I was chuckling is that so Tom Kane wrote a lot of supplements for Ars Magica and for Shadowrun, and so when I got he's been on the show before, and when I got the news that Gumshoe wasn't going to make it, I messaged him and said, "Did you ever write a mystery supplement?" And he said, "No, not really." I was like,
And
"Really, Ars
Kim
Magic?"
says,
And
I think actually you did.
Yes, they are all mystery supplements.
But now I have to go back and actually look and see what his. It was definitely a wishy-washy kind of answer, but
to protect the innocent.
I think he basically said, well, I think most adventures involve some mysteries and some breaking and entering.
Very
He's like,
frequently.
but so actually, that's actually not a bad point. There is a difference between a heist movie or a heist game and a breaking and entering. Dungeon crawls definitely have some breaking and entering.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like part of the thing that one expects in the heist genre is like the level of planning.
Yeah.
Is that there's and some kind of involved plan of you kind of at least know on some level what you're getting into and you're planning for these contingencies ahead of time.
Hmm.
And I think that might also occasionally be a challenge for some groups of role players. And at the very least, we all know what happens when plans meet reality. So
Yeah, so I used to go to a convention where one of the GMs ran the same top secret game for like years.
The same scenario or the same game?
Uh, it was
Or was it
the same people tended to play, and it was just kind of this ongoing. It was like a campaign that only happened twice a year.
okay.
Um, but the team leader in the real world was an accountant.
nice?
And we had 4 hours to play, and he would spend the first hour doing nothing but planning.
Yeah.
And this is actually where I developed the whole I don't really like the GM listening, because the GM would listen to his plan and then immediately just change everything so his plan didn't work.
No.
Well, that's lousy. That's not
That's
good.
just mean.
Yeah,
And that's where I kind of got ahead of this whole like, no, I want to know the beginning of my game and the end of my game.
Hmm.
Um,
Gosh,
sadly,
imagine what kind of fun-killing kind of attitude you have to have. So that, oh, well, not, this will teach them for coming up with an answer to my thing right away.
I think what he was trying to do was make him stop taking an hour to put the plan together.
Yeah,
Um,
I hear
but
that.
he was an accountant, so all it did was he's like, oh well, obviously he didn't figure out that he was just being sabotaged ever.
Mhm.
Everyone figured it
Oh
out except
no.
him.
Oh,
So
buddy.
what his brain did was say, obviously there was a flaw in my plan, so next time I'll be more careful.
Next time I'll take 2 hours to do it.
I think at one point he did. I can't remember. He took one of the old D&D like mega dungeons,
Hmm.
and he turned it into a top secret game. And he handed it to the accountant at the end of the convention and said, "This is what we're doing 6 months from now. Have your plans when you come back, because we're not going to spend 6 hours."
You have all this time to get ready. We're not doing it here.
Yeah, yeah.
Battery says, "I miss Top Secret." Yeah, nobody plays Top Secret anymore
I
except
have it
that
box set on my
that
shelf.
one GM.
I still have it. Yeah. I
So
do
for
have
the
it.
record, that game has now been running for so long that the players have children
Mhm.
from their primary characters that are now the main characters. Like the primary characters have retired. 30 years, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
He's a
amazing.
very good GM. He's the only GM I know who can run for 20 people at a time and nobody gets bored.
That's
Except
wild.
except when the accountant is spending an hour making plans. Yeah, Gamma World was also great.
Gamma World, not a mystery story.
Does Paranoia count as a mystery story?
That's kind of funny because everyone in that game is a mutant. Everyone is a member of a secret society, and everyone is also a traitor of some kind. And so that is like loading up. There is like no session that you play with that with someone isn't going to get shot by the computer or something. Because you can't possibly win. I think the mystery isn't even there. It might be can I solve the mystery of my other players? But as soon as one of your clones is killed and your new clone comes back in, they have the identical stats and organization and mutant power and everything as the last guy. But because they're a clone, the computer goes, cool, reset. I don't know. The other players are told, you must treat this new person as being fine. They're not a commie trader. They're absolutely fine. They're like, you look exactly like the last guy, and I'm sure you have the same kind of secret society membership. And you're like, shh, don't tell anyone. The computer won't find out just yet. So I don't know.
So it used to be that we used to re-roll for new clones, and the new clone got a different mutant power and a different, or at least there was a chance that they would get a different secret society and a different mutant power.
Well, it's the fact that the irony is that they're not. That's why that makes it so funny, is that they're just stuck that way. But I think re-rolling is a perfectly valid way of playing that game for sure, right? But I don't know about the mystery part of it. I think there's honestly, I've played games where they didn't get out of R&D because they were blowing each other up with the guns that were being handed. There was apparently an adventure, but we never went there.
The reason I ask is that, to me, Paranoia is almost a parody of something like Brindlewood Bay, where you just take the clues and you decide who's going to be the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
In Paranoia, what you're doing is just finding clues and excuses to label other people traitors before they can label you one.
Yeah. And shoot them.
Right. So this is why I have a hard time thinking of Brindlewood Bay as a true mystery game, because to me it feels like it's like someone put a petticoat on Paranoia.
Yeah. I cannot deny that there is an attitude that you have to kind of have going in terms of the investment for your character being who they are. I think it is one of those games where you should play it to find out what it's like, but I don't know always if the person running the game is going to be on the same vibe as the people who made it. Do you know what I mean? That's my own fear.
Brindlewood Bay or Paranoia?
Brindlewood Bay. Paranoia, don't worry about it. You don't have to. But there's a really cool thing in that game where I think it's called putting on your mask or something, or taking or putting your crown on, because you're all these lovely old ladies and you've got your old kind of like club and you're solving mysteries, but this town, dark cults are trying to encroach upon everything, and you're just solving everyday lovely mysteries that also over time reveal more of what's happening in this town. And that part, I think, is the GM's got some measure of control over. But, figuring out what these otherwise completely unrelated clues mean is part of the fun of that, sort of like the players feel they have some control, right? But there are points when you can put on your crown and you can just declare that you do something, and each of the characters has a special ability that they can invoke. There's a lot of little bits like that, which to me feel are kind of more the point of the game, less about solving the mystery. Do you know what I mean? I think the cozy mystery side of it is kind of the dressing on it, in a way that isn't necessarily it's hard. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't actually run it yet, but I'm looking forward to trying it out.
I think there was a while there where cozy games was just a selling point.
Yeah.
It's like in a couple of weeks, I'm doing one on like what exactly is an indie game.
Oh gosh!
Because
you have 12 hours.
Well, because the term indie is now getting used as just like people want indie games, and there was a whole mini controversy that seems to have died quite quickly about a video game that was supposed to be from an indie company.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that they had actually been backed by like the largest Chinese video game company out there.
Claire Obscura?
Claire
Obscura, 22. It won an indie award at a gaming thing. I think maybe Tencent had some interest in that too, which is like The big.
No, it was one that just came out. Chat, help me out here. It didn't. It never even had a chance to win awards. It lasted like 2 months and then it just died.
Oh gosh.
But there was a whole thing going on about, well, you should be nice to them. They're a small indie company. They didn't have the resources of like these big companies. And then it turned out they had in fact been funded for like Highguard. There we go. Yes, thank you very much.
Oh really? Oh gosh, no.
And it turned out that they had been funded by this like gigantic company. But their argument was, well, we're still an indie company. We're still a small company. Just because we got funding for multi-millions of dollars doesn't mean we're not an indie company. So we're gonna have this whole conversation about like, well, what exactly is an indie company? Like what? And in role playing, it is, Highguard was funded by Tencent.
Yeah, Tencent. Yeah, that's the largest kind of corporate power monger in the world.
Well, and their argument was indie companies go to larger publishers all the time and get money. You just don't hear about it. So therefore, like, do they really deserve the indie label?
Right.
And in role playing, it's even more interesting because so many companies run off freelancers. So when they say we're a small or indie organization and we only have 3 staff members, but they have 50.
A lot of companies don't even actually have 3 staff members. Everybody's a part-timer or a freelancer.
I was going to say, but if you've got 50,
one person who owns the LLC and that's it.
But if you've got $20 million and you're just like hiring everyone freelance so that you don't have to pay them benefits, does that is that an indie game?
If you take the money out of the equation, yeah, it's indie. It's not very good faith argument though, and I guess you'll probably talk about that in your next thing. But the part of it that gets me though is when you're talking about we want to try indie games, we want to try cozy games. It's that whole vibe thing. Like it's the whole we're looking for the vibes. We want something that feels to us like the thing we imagine it to be. And so, gosh, what is it? There's a recent sort of set of games that Monty Cook has been making that is IP from audio true crime style. What do you call them? Podcast stories.
I mean, they made Old Gods of Appalachia based on the podcast.
Yeah. And there's another one too. The something I forget. It starts with M. Anyway, but those are like
up on what they were doing.
Yeah, those kind of for me are like kind of going into that sort of true crime / spooky mystery style genre, and is what they're going for. But don't know if it was successful. I didn't even know the podcasts, to be honest. That was part of it. But imagine if someone said, "I'm going to get the license for Serial and turn that into an RPG." You're like, well, what would that be like? I have no idea.
There's a book series that I have never read that someone just got the rights to and is planning on turning into a role-playing game. And I think in some cases that can really work. I've always been very surprised that the Thomas Covenant world has not been turned into a role-playing game, because Thomas Covenant himself was a pretty blank figure, but all of the races and people around him were amazing, and they're just sort of ready-made for different classes. So the Giants is one group. He
was a terrible, terrible person. Though the worst possible protagonist you could get in the story is him.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, is if you just made the world without him in it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are these long stretches of time where he does not exist in the world, but you have these amazing groups of people that work together without him. You have the Lords, you have the Giants. And I think it would be really fascinating to make a role-playing game just not for the books, but for the world. And I've always been kind of surprised that, that hasn't happened. But yeah, there are some I look at and go, yeah, I don't think that would make like stories where it's very much a single person's adventure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are a lot of video games that would not solo play video games that would not make good role playing games because they're based around one person, not a group.
I think it was the Magnus Archives. I think is what I'm thinking of. The other one that they did. Is that a thing? Magnus Archive.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, podcast story things. Um, the hardest part with it's like when we first started doing Smallville, the actual IP we were designing it around wasn't Smallville, even though we got the license for it. But we wanted to try and do it for playtesting and trying out stuff. So Miriam Roeburn instead created scenarios and characters for a knockoff of Veronica Mars, right? And so it was a Veronica Mars RPG where you had people playing characters in this sort of West Coast California town, which has all kinds of mysteries and reveals and weirdness. And that was really, really effective. And then we sort of took that off and put Clark Kent on top, and it was what it is. But again, that's a game that no one plays with the actual IP, right? People play Smallville and talk about how great it is, and I really, really love the fact that it's been so well received, but no one's playing it as Smallville. That was just kind of like I present to you the default. You may take this and do things with. And I think there's a way to angle some of these sorts of IP licensed games in the same way. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like the so-and-so IP, but it isn't going to be that. We've given you the rules for everything else that feels like that. And so I think if you could find like an Animal Crossing, for example, which is like a cozy video game, and you said we're doing the Animal Crossing RPG, it's going to be fantastic. You can play a lovely little guy, and someone says, "Well, that's limited because what if it's just this?" You're like, no, you don't get it. It's not really about Animal Crossing. It's about playing cozy little animal people having their own little spats and fights and issues.
So it's Mouse Ritter.
Well, that's Mouse Ritter obviously has its own stuff. No, but you know what I mean. I think that's kind of where I'm getting at. I think some IPs do lend themselves well to being like the model for something, and then once you get that, you can ignore it and then play your own take on it.
So I noticed that a lot of these games we've been talking about, like heist games and mystery games, they're all based on IPs. Do you think that that's necessary to get something like if you wanted to try and make a push to make mystery role-playing games popular, do you think it would be necessary to start with an existing IP? Do you think that that's kind of the state that the hobby is in these days?
I don't know if you necessarily have to have an IP to piggyback off of, but it definitely helps to have it as a touchstone, kind of like Cam was talking about, where it's like, okay, maybe you're gonna make your mystery solving game instead of doing like a Baker Street thing where you're doing Victorian mysteries. Good. Simon, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
I want to see this when it's done. You can find me on Instagram or wherever and send it to me because I
hire Amanda to do the art for it.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah. How are your pigeons, Amanda?
Pretty decent. I actually have a whole mini comic about a pigeon, so they're pretty decent. Anyway, so let's say that you want to do something that's like, oh, you're a bunch of like young kids, you're youngish kids, and you're solving mysteries, and you pal around with one of you has a large dog. But they're like, well, you mean Scooby-Doo? Well, no, for legal reasons, it's not Scooby-Doo. However, that's the vibe. That's what we're going for.
Yeah,
we didn't have the money to actually get the license, but
he's a completely different Great Dane. His name is Boogaboo, and he doesn't have anything to do with
Scooby-Doo. He's a bull mastiff, not a Great Dane.
Right.
It's completely different.
He's a Newfoundland. He's very big.
Yeah, I think that it's not the state of the hobby so much as just the state of marketing in general is that you really need these touchstones to be able to pull from. You really need to be able to say, this thing is like this other thing that you already enjoy. Please please do like this thing because you already like that thing. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily think this is a great thing that this is where marketing is right now, and I don't think it's 100% necessary forever, but it is where we are at currently, where that's kind of an important element in any kind of pitching
Right.
anything, really.
I
Um,
suspected if you wanted to sell through a well-known publisher too, that would be helpful to actually getting them to pay attention to your.
Yes.
yeah. Um, somewhat of a reframing of the question: would it be how popular do you think it would be if you had a game that was just called Fantasy, and it was a fantasy game, um, but it wasn't D&D, and you were trying to get people to get to try it out? And the thing with D&D, I think, is that it is its own IP, right? It's a brand of its own, and it's so big that I think even other fantasy games, as you said before, that kind of like refer to it. It's like D&D, but with this, right? So it's its own thing. It's very. I don't think it will be very easy to sort of present a game and call it just fantasy RPG. You should try it. It's about fantasy. It's your favorite genre, because I don't even think people know what or agree what the fantasy genre is either, right? A few years ago, someone said we should make a magic system for Cortex so we can have a magic system in our game, and I said, what magic system would you want? There are literally thousands of possible ways in fantasy novels, let alone other media, of how magic works. It isn't all spells that you memorize as a wizard, right? At all. And they're like, "Oh, but you know what we mean. Just make a fantasy like a magic." I'm like, "No,
No,
I'm
I
not.
don't know what you mean.
Tell me more." So maybe that's the
Don't
problem.
you just do that sort of thing? Why do I have to think about it?
Yeah, I think that's the reason why saying I'm going to make a mystery RPG. Like, what's the hook? Who are you? What is going on? What kind of mysteries are we talking about? Where is it at? Is it all generic? There won't be as much buy-in at all because you need something to kind of grab, which is the touchstones, like you were saying, Amanda. You do need a kind of a way in beyond just it's a mystery.
That's interesting. I mean, I know some games that do that. The one that pops to mind just because Simon is in the chat is Machinations of the Space Princess, which, their whole tagline is, like sleazy space stuff. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, other than that, I'm not sure I would say, because there's so much to the game, like there's so many options about what you can do with the game. I don't know. Of course, that's more well, it's sci fantasy, but and then you've got something like a lot of my chat are probably familiar. There's a game called Tiny D10 or TD10.
Mhm.
The guy wrote it for his kids like 10 or 15 years ago. Hamster says, Machinations of the Space Princess mentioned. Hello, Hamster. But yeah, it's also a little bit of a cartoony game. But Tiny D10 is just a very, very light, simple fantasy game that he wrote to play with his kids because like D&D was too complicated when they were 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've ever heard him. I think one of the reasons it catches my attention is he's never said this is how my game is different or the same than D&D. He just says it's a fantasy game, it's family friendly, it's easy to learn. Here, have it for free. um, and it's very popular. I don't run a lot of fantasy games, but I run his at conventions every year because I admire his effort and I think he needs more of an audience. But in part too because he isn't trying to be an offshoot of something else.
Mm-hmm.
I edit for a lot of games that are like, here, I want to be, this new thing, but I also want it to be marketable. So here's I did a review for it's basically a superhero game but it's tied to Shadow Dark. And Shadow Dark is not a superhero game in any way, shape, or form. And so I said, "Why did you pick Shadow Dark?" And he said, "Because it was really popular at the time."
Yeah.
And I figured,
Yeah.
and I said, I think that was a mistake because yes, it's really popular, but no one who is looking for a superhero game is looking for is googling Shadow Dark.
Yeah, that seems like a little bit of a mismatch.
Well, I mean, to him, it made sense. Look how many games that are not really, suited for D&D get pigeonholed into D&G just so that they can say they're 5e.
Yeah, like Traveller is the world's most storied science fiction RPG, and they're making a 5e version.
Yeah, I'm very sad about that. And
But they're looking at it from a purely capitalist sort of ideal. Like, how do I make money off this property which has been sitting here and not making the money I want to make off it? And successive launches of the same game with the same rules hasn't been as successful, perhaps. There's a lot of that, like people, even companies that make incredibly good games that are just perfect for their IP, like Cubicle 7 and Free League, even. Like,
Yep.
hey, look, this is the Lord of the Rings, and the One Ring is an incredible game. It's so good. It
And
nails it.
the new One Ring is so good. It's
Yeah,
so mechanically tight and
it is
elegant. And
extraordinary.
and then they're like, but also here's a D20 version. Here's a 5e version.
Here's the 5e rule books.
But why? And the
Yeah,
but why is because there are certain people that 5e is the only thing they will play.
yeah,
It is absolutely the only game they will play. They will not touch anything else, which I do not understand. But
yeah.
apparently there are enough of them that they
But
feel the need to do this.
my players don't want to learn the new rules. I'm like, yes, they do. You don't want to learn new rules.
well, the thing that gets to me is that, I mean, if you're running a fantasy game, fine, but like if you're running a horror game, D&D is not good for horror. And 5e is really not good for horror.
Have you seen Five Evil, though?
Have I seen what?
Five Evil. It is a game written by a fellow New Zealander, Morgan Davey. It is spelled Five Evil, so Fiveve, whatever. It's how to do horror stuff with 5e, and it strips out tons of the D&D aspects of it and replaces it with other stuff. It's not really D&D anymore, though. That's the thing, right?
Well, I was going to say, then they've gotten rid of
takes,
the reasons it doesn't work.
the reason why that's a thing is because people are saying, I don't want to have to learn a whole new way of how dice work and how stats work and how this works. And you can kind of say, well, would you be able to learn this much? And then if that's the answer is yes, then it's like, oh, good, I have my solution right here. It's 5e.
Well, but if you get something like Shadow of the Demon Lord, it's an excellent horror game, and the rules are simpler. Like if you can learn D&D, you can learn Shadow of the Demon Lord. I mean, that's like saying I've learned advanced calculus, but I don't want to learn.
I don't know. I've had this conversation with some people, and some people just don't. It doesn't matter if they're simpler; they just don't want to do it. It's like, okay, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a block there, and you can't move past it. It's like, I don't want to have to learn how to pronounce that name that person in my neighborhood has. And you're like, well, but you learned how to pronounce all the names from Tolkien, so what's the difference? Well, I care about them.
Right.
I think,
right.
But at the end of the day,
for the record, I also have not learned how to pronounce the Tolkien names.
Yeah. I think it's trying to figure out how to get into that person's place where they want to sort of give it a shot, and 5e is one way in for some people, which is fine. And in terms of trying to get people into playing mysteries more often, and especially when they've got GMs who think that the game is never going to work, how do you slip in those sort of feelings and the vibe, as I was saying before? What's the vibe of mystery? How do we do that in the game that you already have? And if you start realizing that other games have better mechanics for this than the one you've been trying to shoehorn in, maybe you'll give them a shot, right?
So, last question I had, at least, chat and panel both. If you were going to make a mystery game out of any IP, time, money, staffing, etc., is not an issue. What would you make, or chat? What would you want to see made? What would you like to see a mystery role playing game or a heist role playing game?
Let's see what the chat has to say. We'll see what the chat has to say. I mean, I personally would just like to see I would like us to be able to bring Baker Street back and do a new edition. That's something that some of the developers have shopped around, but it just hasn't materialized. I like and Pigeons 11, of course. Yes, Pigeons 11.
I mean, Pigeons 11 has apparently already been made.
Happening.
So
it's happening right now.
Yep.
Hanayama-san would like a dark fantasy heist RPG with stealth mechanics.
Yeah, that's what Blades in the Dark is. But the other response often is, yeah, but not that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But different than that.
Different.
Well, he may not be a Powered by the Apocalypse fan.
Yeah. Or a Forged in the Dark fan, or whatever variation we have come to.
Something with horror and choice driven.
I mean, any decent role playing game should be choice driven, but
yeah.
So Rio wants to play Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, I was going to say, this sounds like Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Or Cult. Does anybody remember like the really old editions of Cult?
Oh yes.
That was the first horror game I ever ran. Loved that game.
That game was shrink wrapped in my game store because they said it was going to be full of so much terrible adult mature audience stuff. And
I mean, the core book wasn't bad. Some of the supplements were
yeah, a little bit much.
Steam Age is great for mystery because you don't have to rely on players having a shared sci-fi or fantasy baseline for examining evidence. Interesting.
Yeah, that's part of what was fun about doing Victorian era, was that the only question you ran into as far as like people's shared knowledge base would be occasionally, wait, did that exist yet? We would have to occasionally be like, nope, that's something that was developed in the early 20th century. Back it up a little bit.
Jacob, I think there is a Babylon 5 role-playing game, but it is definitely not a mystery.
There's been several.
Razor says, who is Valen, the mystery game?
Oh, jeez.
Hamster says, part of me feels most of the answers will result in, but it already exists as.
Hey, but you know what? That's great, because you may not have thought of that game in a long time, or maybe you didn't or maybe you knew about that game, but you didn't realize that that's what you would get out of it if you did play it. So this can be a great way to learn about something that you might want to play.
Now, as long as the response is not delivered in like, oh, you're such an idiot for not knowing about this game. Which is like,
oh, no. I do run into a lot of, when I'm editing, people will be like, oh, I have this great new idea for a game, and here's like how all the mechanics are going to work, and yada, yada. And I'm like, you know that this game exists, and it's the exact same thing, right? And they're like, oh, I've never heard of that game.
Yeah.
So really, I have just saved them a whole lot of time and energy for reinventing the wheel. People who have like played one role-playing game ever and then just decide that they're going to go write a game, and it turns out that they've just written another game that already exists is the
reinventing the wheel part of becoming a game developer. It's like,
I remember the old versions of Cult because Goat keeps reminding me of it. Hamster would like to block this out in trauma if I would stop bringing it up. An alternative dark history heist game.
That could be really fun. That's a fun
that could be very interesting.
Premise. That's a fun premise for a game of like, how would you change history if the place got pulled off?
I think it was called Fatherland. There was a movie that is about an alternate history in which Germany won World War II.
Yep.
And they basically have taken over the whole world except for the U.S. because the U.S. never joined the Allies, which is why they won. And I don't remember. It's been 25 years since I watched it. But it's a group of people that are trying to figure out what happened to this guy. And they end up getting involved and they end up unraveling the fact that the Holocaust existed because in the alternate universe, no one knew that it ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
It had
Oh,
been just
goodness.
totally covered up. And so it starts out as like a murder mystery. It ends up becoming like the discovery of this event that took place that no one knew about.
Oh, wow.
Something like that could be amazing as a role-playing game.
There's a really good show called The Man in the High Castle, which is a similar alternate history of
Based on a mediocre book.
Yeah. The reason why I like that show, I haven't watched all of it through, and I think I should at some point, but the reason I like it is that there are glimpses of the real timeline coming out throughout the story, which kind of says this was not always how things were, which I think is a very intriguing thing to have in a story. Like, hang on a minute, especially if the players know this is alternate history, like what's happened. You do bring the aspect, I think, of if anyone has studied any history, they will know parts of it and you think, okay, that's different than what it was in real history. And then you find out the GMs didn't know and just put that in there because they didn't know that was different. But I would say, what is the time period you want to kind of grab for this mystery? I think it would be really interesting to sort of look through time and when was there a period of history that would be cool to do alternate history, dark fantasy for, right? As opposed to the ones that are always being used, like the Civil War and World War II and all of the Middle Ages, apparently.
So the Renaissance Italian game that I mentioned that starts off with a murder mystery is done quite differently from what you'd expect with most fantasy. Starting with the fact that you could play a sorcerer, but you're likely to be burned at the stake. Because it's a 5e game, and they don't say you can't do these things, but fighters or paladins especially are like Knights Templar instead of like standard paladins. Fighters are usually city guard, things like that. So you're taking on all of these roles, and all of the people that are in the beginning of this actually existed in history. The first time I ran it, I ran into issues because I did not know much about Renaissance Italian history. Turned out that one of my players had joined because they were fanatical about it.
Oh, no.
And they wanted to know what happened to all of these other historical people in this alternate world. This person is really cool, but he gets poisoned in like 4 years. Is his brother still alive at the point where this takes place? And I'm like,
what are you talking about?
I have no idea. I'm like,
just go play Assassin's Creed 2. It's all about that.
I'm like, sure. And so it became like him basically saying, okay, so if the brother's still alive and he's still alive, then that means this has to take place between like this year and this year, which also means this is going on, and none of it had anything to do with the game. He was just really excited to think about how the setting for this murder mystery would affect other things in this alternate world, based on it.
I mean, you hit him right in the feels there. He wants to know these things. This is his interest. Unfortunately, we can't always deliver on that, right? Because you don't have the answer for it.
Well, the funny thing is the people that wrote the game were, in fact, like they hired in historians to make sure that all this stuff was accurate. But only the people that were involved in the game. So, and I actually had done some research. So I did pre-gens based on people who actually existed, including a courtesan who apparently was one of the wealthiest women because of her clientele, and she like started the first girls' schools and like really played this very important role in actual history. And so I just slotted her in as a player character.
Nice.
And luckily someone was okay playing the we'll just stick with courtesan. But it turned out they were really like she was really good at getting information from people.
Mm-hmm.
But
she would have
yeah,
so many secrets too, like just so
mhm.
much dirt on people.
But you know that was it was not something I ever would have thought of until I picked this book up. And like I said, I don't really like running 5e. I did it because I was asked nicely and they needed a 5e game on a Sunday. But I really enjoyed it. The company is Vortex Verlag, and the game is The Straightway Lost. So if you do like mysteries, fantasy mysteries specifically. But yeah, I think the idea of using history is a really interesting way to go about that. I mean, people still love Sherlock Holmes, even though that's, you know, luckily nobody's tried to modernize that too much. Victorian does seem to be very popular from histories. Do you think that's just because of Sherlock Holmes?
Oh, for sure.
Or just
That's
that
the
people like that point in history?
I think that the reason why you think of mysteries and the Victorian era hand in hand is because of Sherlock Holmes. I think that's why that
Yeah.
brings up that genre association.
Honey Amazon, I don't know how you'd get a murder mystery out of that, but I do have to say
But
that
he's got ideas.
a world where Takeda Shingen and Wasigi Kenshin didn't fight each other and instead just divvied up Japan between them peacefully is also one that I would love to see. At this point, just add the code phrase historical figure moved to a farm upstate in Canada, but Canada doesn't look combat. Sorry, Hamsa, I don't quite get that one. I think I must have missed
Just the idea of whenever you're not sure what's going on with a particular historical person, they're gone. They went somewhere else. It's fine.
Distract them with combat. 5e
Right.
Do you think you could do something like completely outside most people's realm, like a mystery that took place in, I don't know, like Mayan history? Or
Yeah, you would have to have some angle into that you yourself would be able to feel comfortable portraying it, right? I'm trying to remember the name of the huge empire that was in Africa for a while, that was just amazing, and then is just gone. It was in Ethiopia somewhere. But there was a time period when a lot of these sort of like nations in sort of northern Africa or a little bit south of that were incredibly important in terms of what they've discovered in the histories and their sort of like, you know, development, and aren't around. But the thing is, that's super rife for this kind of mystery stuff, right? Because you could just say, this is not, you have no idea what this is like. This is not like Europe. This is not like America or anything else. This is this. Similar Pacific Islander countries, as I'm from New Zealand, but the Pacific Islands are so full of incredibly diverse sort of like historical events and things that have gone on, lots of migration. Just see Moana, so you know everything about it. But those sorts of parts of the world that have not been really touched on a lot, the real draw for them is like, I want to play someone who's in this thing, and then also there's a weird problem I have to solve somehow and figure out, right? Because in the course of doing the mystery, you can reveal elements of the setting, right? Because these things will come out and will be tied to it some way. So
we were talking about needing a hook, though. I'm wondering if there would be enough of a hook there.
mm-hmm.
Chat, what do you think? Like, if you had something like from a completely different, like a mystery from a completely different culture, place, history. I'm sort of fascinated with, you know, like South American history and bits and pieces. So that's kind of why my brain goes there. But Hanayama-san's just like rattling off.
Just go. He's just going. We've got him cooking over here now.
Yeah. It's Pigeons 11 in this game. These two
Yep.
are coming out of the chat.
So Cam, you didn't say what you would write if you were.
Oh gosh, I've got so many different things that will be wonderful to work on. But then again, I keep thinking, what about this? And then I'm like, no, that's like, what am I interested in? I think I just watched with my son. We're rewatching all of the Netflix Marvel shows because we're leading up to Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And we just watched Jessica Jones, which is noir, private eye stuff. It's again, it's the vibes. It's not necessarily a mystery, although there are definitely mystery elements because there's like crimes and things, and has this character come back and whatever. I like the idea of superhero mysteries a lot. I think that the element of having powers, especially street level stuff, where you like one person's strong, or I've got like, I can do whatever. Superman solving mystery is not very interesting to me, but having that sort of low level Bat family, but also like the Marvel sort of Daredevil and Jessica Jones level stuff, that's cool, right? Because I think you get that extra fun of, I'm playing a superhero. I am not a normal person. I'm cool. I have these skills and training and this weird power because I was an experiment. But on top of that, you have, and now I have this thing. If there's a mystery, I'm going to try and solve it with whatever weird thing that I've got. And you can mix that with heist stuff. Why not? Mix them both up. You can do all kinds of things with that. But that's the mystery thing I would want to try and look at. Trying to take a superhero approach to it and see how that will be fun and different from the usual.
We didn't touch on it quite as much, but I think I would love to see a game that's either sort of like a Godfather type thing, or I haven't watched it all yet, but Tulsa King.
Oh yeah, with Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, I was astonished to discover he can act.
Yeah. When they let him, they give him some words to do and some character to play as opposed to a cardboard cutout.
But it surprises me that there aren't more of these. I mean, we're sort of fascinated with mob culture in a lot of ways. And so I'm always sort of interested in the fact that there aren't more. I mean, I think there's like a mobile game that's based around it. But not a lot of other. I mean, other than The Godfather itself, obviously.
What do you think a Grand Theft Auto game would be like? You've heard of the Grand Theft Auto video game, which is one of the most popular.
Yeah, I've never played it, but
right. But I mean, it's all crime and gangsters and
doing all the crimes.
Yeah.
I think it would be great for murder hobos.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, the murder hobos would have a field day with that, something like that.
I mean, I think that's why it's a terribly popular video game.
Right, because you can drive your car into like people and throw them down off ramps and across bridges and into buildings and just.
I think of a Grand Theft Auto versus The Godfather is sort of like, to me, like the difference between a heist film and a breaking and entering.
Interesting. When we would do some context, when I did the Kickstarter years ago for Cortex Prime, which Fandom then took on and finished and made Cortex the book and so on, we had a whole lot of stretch goals called Spotlights, which were little mini games that were designed with Cortex that you could use as the starter for a campaign, right? We ended up putting most of them out to the backers, but one of the ones I really liked that we worked on was called Cosa Nostra, which was absolutely a mafia game, and you played members of a family who were sort of trying to rise the ranks in this sort of fictitious set of time period. It was the time of The Godfather, right? Mm-hmm. But we really did work on a lot of the whole, how would you, what would you do in this game? What do you even do if you're all members of a crime family, and what happens? So we kind of had it where we sort of loosely structured out a timeline over months of the larger crime family trying to wipe out all its competition, and you were having to interact with that. And I think that's kind of cool, because you do need to have that question always: what do you do in this game? And if you don't know the answer to that, then you need to stop and figure that out first.
For Amanda's benefit, since she does comic books, Lazarus. I don't know if anyone is familiar with it. It's a fairly short-run comic book that I absolutely love.
Mhm.
It is a sci-fi mob boss family comic book, like futuristic, post-apocalyptic criminal overlords. That would also be a fabulous role-playing
Very
game.
fun.
But it is 10 minutes of. I want to make sure everybody has time to plug their stuff. Thank you very much to the chat for being here. Cam, where are you going to be? What you got coming up? What you got coming out?
Yeah, right now I am working with the folks at Glass Cannon Unplugged to create the Diablo RPG based on the Diablo video games. That's been fun to do. Also,
Which Diablo?
Diablo, like Diablo 4, the dark horror.
I know there's a vast difference between Diablo 1 and Diablo 4.
It's
I
all
am
the Diablos.
in the middle of streaming all of them. That's
It is all of them. We just got the news about the Paladin and the Warlock, so we get to put those in the game at some point probably. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of playtesting for that. It's the Diablo 4 era, so but it also builds on all the previous stuff that the games have established as lore. So that's a fun thing.
nice.
I am also always picking up gigs and things, but I have my Patreon where I'm designing a game called Gyro Shooter, which is a take on hero shooter games, and it uses the Sentinel Comics RPG rule system, which I helped create when we were working with them at Greater Than Games. And it is the short version is you are a psychic who puts their mind into a robot drone body to go into weird alien zones to stop aliens from doing crap. It is an excuse to have all those things like Overwatch and Marvel Rivals and Apex Legends, all that sort of style of heroes with lots of guns and things taking out baddies. So that's an independent game I'm working on, an indie game even, you could call it.
What is it really?
We don't know. We'll have to find out.
Okay, thank you very much. Amanda?
Yeah, so folks can follow me online at any time. You can follow me on Instagram at Amanda Call Art. And I also have a webcomic which is currently not updating, but it's going to start updating again soon, called Age of Night. That's AGEOFNIGHT, ageofnight.com. And also, I'm currently, as far as game projects go, I'm currently working on illustrations for an upcoming Kickstarter for the sequel to Goblonia from Wicked Clever, Goblonia 2. This time, they're pirates. So that's what I'm working on right now as far as game design stuff goes. And I'm looking forward to that because that's a lot of fun. My big comic project right now is also Prophets of Doom, which is going to be soliciting at your local comic store within the next month or so, because that's going to be coming out in June. That's written by Joe Schmalke and drawn by me. So check that out too if you get a chance.
Sweet. I have visuals for once. I just have to remember how to actually get them up because I'm not usually the one sharing my screen.
Have to make the
okay.
Tech happen.
So, things I have coming up. For anyone who is familiar with Matt Page, also known as Master Ken, I got to interview him recently. And we did a WeWatch on Paper Tigers, which is it was supposed to be one video. It's rapidly getting turned into 3 because we covered an awful lot of different topics. I am hoping to have the first one of those out this week, but a lot of it's going to depend on YouTube making allowances because everything I put out these days seems to be getting dinged for copyright. So
Ooh.
And for anyone from the New England area, I am running for PortCon. So this is my schedule for the weekend of PortCon. I crammed in as many indie games as I possibly could. I did do a couple of better known ones. I have that Straightway Lost that I was talking about earlier for 5e that I'm also running. So if you're from the New England area and going to be at PortCon, come find me. Otherwise, Slice and Dice is here as always. I am trying to remember what next week's topic is. I had to move so much stuff around because I scheduled things and then went, oops, I just remembered I have babies born or due that day. So yes, if you are a member, don't forget that within the next few weeks, your membership allows you to all of the brand new baby goat videos. So
Oh.
next week, we are talking about the subgenres of fantasy. Darren Pierce, who's been on the show before, will be back. KDAF Gaming will be here. And as your GM, we'll be talking about high fantasy. So we're going to be talking about all of the various bits. And I'm going to make a whole lot of very hot take type things that everyone can get really upset about. I think that is the only thing I've got coming up at the moment. I don't believe I'm on anybody else's show for the next week. Dark fantasy is the best fantasy. Darren will be delighted to agree with you. That's mainly what he does these days, is write for Shadow of the Demon Lord and various other dark fantasy stuff. So I do want to thank the panelists for coming again. Amanda, thank you very much for filling in for sick people. Cam, thank you for being here. I'm very glad to discover it is not 6 a.m. there, which was my concern.
Oh, me too. I'm super happy it's not 6 a.m.
And thank you to everyone from the chat for being here. I appreciate you all. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and that memberships are open. Everything that I earn from memberships is going to be going to my Going To page and hopefully taking more indie games to the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, as well as making some very cool videos. And just, I think this has been a not understood fact. When I take those indie games to conventions, I am not like, this is not a paid thing. This is my volunteering. So the little bits of help from your memberships is really helpful, because in Philadelphia, the hotel room alone is going to be like $900. So yes, Wormy, I will not forget you. So everyone have a great night. We will see you. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Game streams. I will be doing my regular video game streams starting tomorrow morning. So I despite having done them for 3 months now, I still totally forget that they exist until 10 o'clock in the morning rolls around. So everyone have a wonderful day and happy headbutting.
It's a fucking goat.
Eclectic Goat's got videos of indie authors and cinema love, a passion for the weird and the strange. She's snappily dressed and only slightly deranged. Come and meet the Eclectic Goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word, happy headbutting. Come join the herd. Shows might be a little improper. We've got real zombie, fake whizzes the otter, pizza in one hoof, glass in the other, deciding which role-playing games we will cover. Come and meet the Eclectic Goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word, happy headbutting. Come join the herd. Got a thing for black and white screens, crappy horror with low budget scenes. Choose on the history, spits out the lore. Time for another whiskey pour. Come and meet the Eclectic Goat, lover of classics some whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy head buddy, come join